Today's Wiki Quickie is how to change a microswitch in your tap or shower control unit. Almost all modern caravans have an electric pump. That's fine, that's clever, but something is needed to switch it into action. Now, if you've got this type of diaphragm pump fitted normally to quite expensive caravans, hidden deep down inside is what is called a pressure sensitive switch. Sometimes you won't have it built into the pump, you'll have it as a separate item in the water line itself. One pipe here, one pipe here. Either way, the moment you open a tap, it detects that there's a hole in the system, which of course is the tap outlet, and it triggers the motor into life. Very clever. There is a little problem though. If somewhere in the system you've got a weak joint, a poor clip on there, that there's a bit of a chance for air to creep into the system, that falsely triggers the pump into life. That can be a real nuisance in the middle of the night, and sometimes you hear one of these pumps do a couple of beats and it can wake you up. So anybody with this type of system usually switches it off at the wall on the master control panel before they switch off the light to sleep. That's one type of switch, pressure sensitive switches. As an alternative to pressure sensitive switching, probably the majority of caravans have a switch that's actually built into the tap assembly itself, or in this case the shower control unit, which has the shower head removed for the purposes of this demonstration. Right, now what is a microswitch? How does this work? Well, you can check to see if you've got a microswitch system by looking underneath the worktop. And if you can see under the tap, somewhere in the dark under the sink, a couple of wires coming down, you know that it's got a switch built into the tap assembly itself. Alternatively here, you would also see two cables coming in from the cold, and they're not fitted here, but you'd see two cables coming down from the hot side as well. Now let's be clear about this. A switch is just a device that brings two cables together and lets the current flow. If you're not sure whether there's a problem in your pump or your tap, under the Caravan, near the work surface, underneath the mounting point, you'll see the two cables coming down. Here, I've presumed that the red ones are part and parcel of the Caravan itself. And if you were to detach them and to touch them together, let's just show you on this end for example, you would be doing exactly the same thing as a switch would do, and then the current could flow. In other words, you've eliminated the switch from the system. You've made the switch here, and perhaps if the pump works now, you know that it's the switch that is giving the trouble. And that's where we're going to move on to see how you change one. So this is the microswitch we're going to replace. It's held in position by a small plastic collar which has a springiness to it and has a bit of a pull to remove. Once the collar's withdrawn and taken back down the cable, you can see how the switch sits on two small pillars. But this is broken, so we disconnect it and put that to one side, ready to be thrown away. You can't repair them. This is the new one. It pays firstly to attach the cables. You can do this well away from the scene of the crime, as it were. Now with it in this position on the cables, check that there is a collar in place. Here it comes. That's my boy. Position it onto the two pillars. Press it home. Introduce the collar, and that holds it all together. Job completed. The switch should now work as soon as you open the tap. So you didn't like working in the dark, right under the worktop. These modern taps, you can do all the work changing the microswitch from on top. You can see what you're doing as long as you know how to get inside. Stage one is to get a small screwdriver and very carefully ease off the hot, cold button. That now reveals the screw underneath. And a little bit of a warning here. The first time I did this, the lever came off and all the bits and pieces fell all over the desk, and it took a long time to work out where it all goes. So lift it off carefully. You can see now that there's a piece here which is going to slide off, and whoopee, recognise it. There's the microswitch, a tiny little pip on the top. That is pulled out, replaced with a new one, reseated here. This is replaced as well, and then it's just a matter of reversing everything, fitting this in situ, tightening it up and popping back the hot and cold afterwards. Very much easier when it's in view and it's on top of the sink unit. And that's how to change a microswitch in your tap system or your shower control unit.